friends, it's Valerie Ling here. I popped on to a FaceTime call to speak to one of my relatives who is currently in hospital, forgetting that I am walking around in my house looking exactly like this. And I thought, why not continue the winter vibes? I've got my beanie and I've got a scarf because it gets cold in my house and I just don't like to put the heating on. It dries out my skin and it makes me feel yuck. So I much prefer to look like this and walk around and be warm. I'd love to talk to you about my current bedtime reading, the book that is about the Lego story. I walked into a bookstore, saw this bright yellow book, and thought to myself, what on earth could be behind the Lego story? Thinking to myself that I was going to find out about maybe some toy makers. Maybe I was going to find out that the Lego story started off with them actually thinking that they were going to dominate the world, take over Disneyland or something like that. But no, it has been a really fascinating read. So much so that probably in a span of about 2 nights, I have read half of the book. And then it got to the point where as I was reading the book, I actually got out my pencil because there were lots of fascinating things that they were sharing with me that I want. And I wanted to come and tell you a little bit. Now, I do have a podcast where I talk about private practice and business and leadership, and I will be unpacking all the things that I've learned about the Lego story in terms of business and leadership. But for today, I want to bring something more in the burnout space and more about the reason why I actually do what I do. The Lego story is essentially a story of a family-run business. Lego was created in a time during the war when the people who created Lego in Denmark were going through some really hard times. And many, many stories of adversity, but essentially a single parent who had to take care of his children and had to come up with ways that he would actually supply them with food and shelter. And through the Lego story, particularly in the initial stages of the story, you actually hear how the father just wouldn't give up and would make wooden toys and would barter these toys basically for supplies for his family to, to bring food into the pantry and things like that. But it is also an incredible story of how opportunity, a little bit of luck, a little bit of ingenuity perhaps sparked a whole movement. Spoiler alert, the Lego people did not actually invent Lego as we know it, as in bricks that make buildings and things like that, which surprised me. I thought, oh, they must be so clever that they invented the whole thing, but no, they did not. At the heart of it is in this book, it's essentially, see if I can, basically it's written by someone who interviews the grandchild of the Lego founder. And all through the book, you get glimpses of how this extraordinary family-run business, driven by a visionary founder, who then passed it on to his children, who then passed it on to his children, was it's essentially a story of a hugely driven empire, family-founded business, where the children played with Lego, but from where I'm reading halfway through the book, didn't see very much of their parents or of their family. And you've got these photographs of the kids peppered through the book where they're essentially by themselves, building huge Lego structures and just pictures of them being by themselves. And the little that I've read, I could be corrected by the time I get to the end of the book, suggests that this was the reality for the grandchildren growing up in this empire. They didn't see their parents, particularly their father. There was very little interest shown in their world outside of Lego. So what were they doing at school? Who their friends were? A real sense of a kind of loneliness as well that the children had. And it's pretty fantastical to think, isn't it? The founders of one of the most successful groundbreaking inventions, well, toys, really, Lego, a world for, well, Lego essentially means play well. He introduced a whole lifetime of kids playing, and their own children very rarely saw their own parents. And here's the thing about being driven to the point of exhaustion, and that is the story at the moment. The founders, from what I'm reading, it is non-stop, non-stop innovation and world domination for Lego. They just didn't stop. They didn't have, and there's fear. You really read because they've come from a history of adversity. That what if they stop? If they stop, will it all fall down? Will it all crumble? Would the innovation stop? Would somebody else take over? Would the Lego story run to the ground? To the point of exhaustion. Is that the kind of story and legacy that we want to leave behind? I don't know. Made me really think, hence the pencil, to take note and ask myself some questions. How do I know that even when I'm sitting at home right now, 5:45, in the middle of preparing dinner, my kids are outside, I'm talking to you, how do I know whether this experience is translating into a legacy that is more about my fear that I might fail or might not be good enough, not just for now, in the present age, for the age to come, while the very things that bring us life and love and joy are right outside our door, waiting for us to come and be in the moment with them? How do we know? It's a question worth pondering. Stay tuned for my podcast episode when I do indeed unpack the story of the Lego story. Good night. See you soon.